In this video, I give you a movie review for Godzilla Minus One. But before we get into today's video, just want to share with you what the GGGGs are for this month. Each month, Bob the Beholder picks some of my Patreon supporters to receive gratitude gifts. And for this month of December of 2023, we have this printed and painted Battlefield Builder terrain set. We have 2 pledges for the Battlefield Builder Kickstarter that's going on right now. We have 2 pledges for the DecoQuest Strongberg Kickstarter that is also going on right now. We have 3 people that are going to be receiving this set of wound trackers that attach to the bottom of your miniatures. And then finally, we have $100 going towards a crowdfunding campaign, which my Patreon supporters are currently voting upon. So I don't normally do media reviews on my channel as I'm primarily focused on hobbying for games. But every once in a while, there's something that comes along that is so good that I can't help but give my recommendation. I think previously I've only done one other media review, and that was for the excellent Netflix series Arcane, which is the best animated series that I've ever watched. And in this case, with Godzilla Minus One, I can honestly say that this is the best Godzilla movie that I have ever seen. And I grew up during the 70s watching Godzilla on Saturday afternoons, and I think I've seen pretty much all of the old ones from the 60s and 70s. I actually have this reoccurring stress dream where I'm actually in Tokyo when Godzilla is attacking and I'm trying to flee, and that is definitely tied into all of those times that I watched Godzilla as a young child. Although I don't ever remember being scared whenever I watch those Godzilla shows. But I've skipped out on a lot of the American-made Godzilla movies, the more recent ones, primarily because my criticism of those is that even though it's fun to watch Godzilla destroying everything, I feel the same way about the Michael Bay movies for Transformers, where really I just wish they would take out any dialogue or people in the movie and just have this long string of the Transformers just fighting each other, because the dialogue is so bad and I have no vested interest in any of the human characters. And a lot of the more recent Godzilla movies, especially from the United States, I feel the same way, where I feel like the humans and the human stories are just backfiller and totally unnecessary to the movie. So when I heard about Godzilla Minus One, I was super excited. One, because it is a Japanese production rather than an American one, and I just trust the Japanese interpretation of Godzilla more just because of the historical significance of the atomic bombs being dropped on Japan, and for a way for the Japanese people to cope with that through media. So I was curious to see this interpretation, especially since it is the prequels to all the other Godzillas, and the setting is right at the end of World War II. And I was always curious to see how it was going to portray kamikaze pilots as well as war in general. And overall, I was pretty happy with the message, sort of the broader anti-war message that is present in this movie as well as other Godzilla movies. But that's really tertiary to what is really enjoyable about this movie, and that is character development. Unlike a lot of other, even Japanese-made Godzilla movies, there's a ton of character development that happens where you really begin to care for all of the main characters in this story, and sort of the psychological damage that the main character is going through and you're watching on screen, it just really grips you and you're a little bit startled, even in this day and age where people having trauma and PTSD is sort of publicly made known. Just watching it sort of play itself out, and especially the main character's sort of trauma and guilt around not only him failing his obligations to his country, but also the trauma around encountering Godzilla fairly early in the movie. Usually you have to wait a long time before Godzilla first appears, but Godzilla Minus One, you have Godzilla appearing pretty quickly in the movie, which is awesome. Also, this portrayal of Godzilla is one that is really scary. Godzilla always has sort of this dual relationship where you are sort of rooting for him, you're sort of on Godzilla's side, and in many movies, Godzilla is actually an advocate for humanity, trying to bring balance to nature and all that kinds of stuff. So in many movies, you're actually rooting for Godzilla, but this is a case where you're actually rooting against him because you get so invested in the human characters, and I feel like the story arc makes you sympathize for the pain behind the main character. Godzilla himself is actually one of the more scarier versions of Godzilla. The immense power that is depicted just by the screenshots and the devastation that he has. And one thing that I really have to say is Godzilla's atomic blast in Godzilla Minus One is insane. It's like the wave motion gun from Star Blazers. I mean, just insanely powerful. And basically, it's like an atomic blast. And the first time I saw it in the movie, my jaw just dropped. And it was crazy powerful. The other crazy thing about this movie is that it was made with only $15 million, which is insane considering all the CGI that is in it. And I think the CGI is actually pretty good. And it's astounding that this movie is doing as well as it is here in America. I'm always a little bit skeptical about whether or not movies that are in foreign languages actually can do well here in the United States. But I think the story arc and the storytelling that happens in Godzilla Minus One sort of shows how really that if you have that important piece in a movie, that can transcend sort of cultural barriers or cultural misunderstandings and even a genre. I was surprised when I was in the theater last night that there were a couple of families that came in with older kids that didn't seem super nerdy. There was a good sprinkling of nerdy people there like me that was in the movie theater, but I was surprised at how many sort of mainstream older kids were there, especially females were there, and they seemed to really enjoy the movie as well. It was really funny. Even though it was a Monday night showing and the movie theater wasn't super crowded, everyone was really into the movie. A lot of people were crying, and at the very end when the movie finished, the whole theater was clapping, which again, I think always surprises me a little bit. That only happens every once in a while in a movie. I never thought I would cry in a Godzilla movie, but that's how invested I was. I actually was tearing up at the end of the movie, just because the storytelling was so good and I was so invested. And one of the things that I really like about Asian cinema is its portrayal of sort of romance, and even though that's not a key part of the movie, I just love the way that Asian media shows romance in a more subtle way, where people aren't explicitly stating their feelings for each other or anything like that. But instead, you just see a glance or just, you just pick up on it. And I just love that that was portrayed also in Godzilla Minus One with the main protagonist. And I wouldn't even call it a love interest because it's really not a love story, but the complicated relationship between him and the woman that he takes in after Tokyo is devastated, it's just great. I just love that it is relatively subtle. Now, at the end, it sort of does hammer you over the head. But throughout the movie, I just love the psychology and the nuance and the depth that's portrayed throughout the whole thing. So definitely go and see this movie. And I'm so cheap, I will just wait until most movies come to streaming because I don't want to pay, $15 to go see a movie. But definitely it was worth it. You should go see it on a big screen because the attacks and all of the scenes with Godzilla in it is crazy good. I mean, I just can't believe this wasn't a multi-$100 million movie. It just is so good, done with $15 million. And I know that probably there's other movies that have better CGI in it, but this was definitely very, very good CGI in my opinion, and is well worth the money. And I think critics and audiences and reviews are agreeing with me that this is an awesome movie, and especially compared to some of the trash that American producers are making right now, that I have no compulsion to go see. This was one definitely that I wanted to go, and I am not disappointed at all. And I don't think you will be either. You don't even have to be a nerd. You can bring your non-nerdy family members to go watch it because the storyline is so compelling. Now, is there anything that I didn't like out of the movie? Yes, there's one thing. What I found very strange or unrealistic was several times in the movie, Godzilla is standing up. It looks like he's standing up in the ocean and, attacking. And especially towards the end of the movie, he's supposed to be standing over like 1,500 meters of water. So I don't exactly know how that works. That sort of broke the immersion for me. And I know for other people, you know, realism, you're asked to suspend a disbelief with movies with giant radioactive lizards in the show. But for some reason that snagged me just a little bit. Otherwise, you know, I don't have any other criticisms of the movie. I think it was awesome and really well done. So go check it out. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. I'm going to return back to my regular themes of hobbying for gaming. But this movie was so good, I had to give my Gaming Geek stamp of approval and encourage all of you to go see it. We'll see you next time.